Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my Karen half-sister is demanding my college fund. Background: my dad passed before I, 18 male, was born, and my mom remarried and she had my half-sister, who's 17, with her new husband. Last year, my grandparents, on dad's side, let me know that they had been saving a college fund for me, and over the years, they had saved a substantial amount. This year, I applied to colleges and got into my dream school, Oxford. To clarify, I'm American, so I'm not eligible for most forms of financial aid, and going there would wipe out most of my college fund. I also got into some really good options in the US, like Berkeley, UCLA, and Cornell, all with really generous scholarships and financial aid that meant I could attend very affordably. I considered all of my options and decided that it was worth paying more for Oxford because A, it will get me closer to my long-term goals, and B, it's been a lifelong dream of mine to attend. My sister and mom did not like this decision. Essentially, they wanted me to go to an affordable option and give the college fund to my sister. This is because my sister doesn't have the grades to get scholarships and she'll need money to pay for college, whereas I can go for almost free. Honestly, I don't think that's my problem. My sister isn't even related to my dad or grandparents, so it wouldn't make sense to give the money to her. Plus, it's her responsibility to get good grades, so I don't see why I should have to give up my dream because she didn't do well. She confronted me, calling me selfish for refusing to help her out, saying I'm making her sacrifice her dreams of going to college. I pointed out she was doing the same thing, asking me to give up my dream. She called me a selfish jerk. I think she's the one at fault here because she failed to do what she needed to in order to achieve her goals, and now she's asking me to make sacrifices for her. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your grandparents saved that money for you, which was very sweet of them. I do feel sorry for your sister that she hadn't had the same luck. But honestly, don't pass up the opportunity of going to Oxford. I don't know about the American universities, but Cambridge is pretty fantastic, so I assume the same applies to Oxford. Congrats, by the way. I, 39 male, found out that I'm literally the backup to my pregnant fiance, and I walked out. Now she's begging me to come back. We first met 6 years ago at my then job, and we were just colleagues back then. I split up with my ex 4 years ago roughly, and we started seeing each other casually 3 years ago until she asked me if we could give it a go at a serious relationship just over 2 years ago. A lot has happened in the past 2 years. She had a preventive double mastectomy due to having the breast cancer gene. We both sold our respective houses, moved in together, got pregnant, and I proposed 6 months ago. She's been telling me in the past few months she's so in love with me, can't wait to start our family, and even wants more kids with me. We only planned to have this one, but because she's so happy, we were even saying she was thinking about having another kid straight after our first is born, so we could start our family before she has a hysterectomy due to the gene. So she went on maternity last week, and we have 2 weeks to go before our baby is born. My phone died a few days ago, so I asked her if I could use one of her old phones until my new one came. She said of course, and told me which one, and said it should be empty really. Important thing to note here is that she actually has 2 of the same make, but different models, so by mistake, I grabbed the wrong one and logged in, and said, "Oh, I thought it was blank." She said without thinking she must be baby-brained again, so to do what I want and delete anything I don't need. After a short while, I start going through the phone and see that she has conversations with her bestie in there, and the last dates were just before we committed to each other. Basically, she was talking to her and literally weighing up all of her options about who she should have kids with before it's too late, and she was going over her backups, and I saw their chat about me. Basically, the consensus was I was the shortest and oldest of her guys she was seeing, but I had the best prospects, most stable job, best personality, most common interests, funny, and good looking, even if I'm not her usual type. So she said she was going to give it a go, and her friend encouraged her. Then I guess we started dating. The messages stopped when she was starting to go through her mastectomies and got a new phone. I was just like, "What the heck, babe?" out loud, and she initially was clueless but realized which phone I had. She was mortified and she was spiraling trying to explain herself but not making much sense. I literally told her to just shut up, grabbed my stuff and I walked out. I've booked into a B&B and I've been staying here for a couple of days now. She's been messaging me, sending video messages, literally begging me to come home, crying so we can talk. I can't face it. I feel so humiliated and used. I've gone from the happiest I've been in years to feeling like my last couple of years is a bit of a lie. I keep going through the messages on one hand and thinking of how she's been acting the past few months, telling me how much she's in love with me, how happy she is, she wouldn't change the past couple of years, and how much she's looking forward to us starting a family together. Saying things like she has an actual crush on me, even just sending me texts with hearts on them. I literally don't know what to do. Do I go back and talk, or wait it out until she has the baby, then go back and discuss it then? I'm a literal mess, Reddit. Edit. You're all right. I shouldn't just walk out and leave her while she's so vulnerable. I'm going to go home at least and be with her until the baby is here, and we'll see what happens then. Can't say I know how I'll feel long-term about this and what will happen next, or that I'm happy, but we'll tackle it when it comes. My husband asked me out because he thought I would be a good supportive wife and didn't fall for me until after we were dating. When I found out, I was so upset. It really doesn't matter. I love him, he loves me. I don't have any doubts about our relationship. I understand that you would be embarrassed or upset, but how you started out doesn't invalidate your current relationship. My guy, did you read what you actually wrote? She thinks you have the best personality, funny, you're good looking, even though you're not her normal type. And that was before you made an actual commitment. Now, 2 years on, she's so in love with you, incredibly happy, and can't wait to have kids with you, to the point she's planning your second before your first is even here. And you're angry because she thought through her options before making a commitment to you? She compared you to other people she was also dating at the time. She talked to the people she trusts before making a huge decision? She hasn't done anything wrong, and you're letting your insecurity blind you. You're interpreting this as humiliation because she brought up things you feel insecure about, when what actually happened was that she chose you for all of the great qualities she always knew you had. You have a great relationship by your own account with someone who loves you and a new baby on the way. Why are you even thinking about throwing all of that away? I've reread my old journals occasionally for nostalgia. It's like those entries are written by a stranger. Don't put too much stock into it. Go back to your pregnant fiance and talk to her. You feel so humiliated and used? It's because you were. Don't be someone's safe option because they will jump ship the moment something better appears on the horizon. Nice guys always moan that women choose the Chad who's tall and handsome rather than the nice guy. Your fiance has chosen you over the others. She's darned if she does, darned if she doesn't. She settled for him because of his resources. It's not true attraction. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his fiance? Please let us know. I wonder how many of these Reddit commenters are taking out all their anger on OP. Like, imagine if she'd be going through his old text messages and he had said things like, well, of all the girls I'm dating, she's shorter than the rest and older than them, but she does have a good job and makes good money, so maybe I should settle for her. Am I the jerk for making my parents kick my nephew out of their will? I, 47 female, have always had a very strained relationship with my brother, 51 male. He had a very bad accident when he was 17 and spent 3 months in a coma. Ever since, he's been the child my parents swooned over, and they make excuses for everything he does. I've been to therapy because of this for over a decade, as I resented him for my parents forgetting about me when I was younger, even though I love my parents. My nephew, 31 male, has basically been raised by my parents as well. His mom passed during childbirth, and my brother lived with our parents till about 4 years ago when he moved in with his girlfriend. Because my brother is handicapped and doesn't have big motor skills, a lot of the childcare was handled by my parents over the years, till my nephew moved out of state 5 years ago for his job. A couple of weeks ago, my parents were meeting with their lawyer to set up their will, as they're both no longer in the best of health and want to make sure we're taken care of. The only big thing that they have is their house and car. They were talking about how they want to split the inheritance 3 ways, and I got confused and asked them why 3 ways, considering it's only me and my brother. They said they wanted my nephew in there as well, and they basically raised him since birth and consider him largely as their kid too. I told them that's not fair, as I have 2 kids as well, and if my nephew is in the will, they should be as well. My brother said that what they're doing with their money is their business, and I should stay out of it, but I disagreed. Eventually, my parents agreed and didn't give my nephew his share. My brother called me a giant jerk and said that I was petty to punish my nephew for the resentment I have towards him. We broke out into a fight that my parents had to unfortunately break up. My nephew called me a couple of days ago to check in on my youngest as he's our godfather. He had already heard what happened and just said that it was a bit of a Karen move to do, but he's unbothered by it as it's none of his business. But my brother is still very upset with me, and my parents are rather cold towards me as well. Am I the jerk here? Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. Thanks to everyone for the sometimes harsh but honest comments. I just want to clarify a few things. My nephew is godfather of my youngest. She's 7. My eldest is 10. He's also the only one in the family around his age. All of my cousins are around my age, and then there are the kids. He and I have a good relationship. He's always been a very hard worker and studied hard to be where he is now, and I couldn't be more proud of him, what he's been able to accomplish with the limited resources he has. My parents absolutely adore my kids as well, and babysit often when my husband and I need help or we're busy with work. My parents are in a care home and want none of us to take care of them. They made sure that no one had to, and even when my nephew was living with them, he did errands for them like running to shops, groceries, making appointments for them when need be. Just because he moved out of state, he can't do that anymore. We also did it together, as many mentioned that my brother wasn't able to do this. It is true that they see my nephew more as a son than a grandson. Edit 2 to answer a few more questions I've received. Me and my husband have been together for nearly 20 years. He has his own construction business and I'm a head teacher. I also think the reason why my parents want to take him in the will is because of all the medical expenses my brother had with the accident and the continuous aftercare. He'd have virtually nothing left of his share of the inheritance. I think that's what my parents are trying to avoid by putting my nephew in the will, though I'm not fully sure. Not the jerk. OP's parents brought OP into the conversation about distribution, and OP gave the opinion that a will that included the nephew should also include OP's kids. You're the jerk. Your nephew and your kids are not in the same situation. Your parents practically did raise your nephew, so to them, they consider him like a son. It's really understandable. Sorry that you were the invisible one, but this was a jerk move. I, 30 female, told a woman who's also 30 about her husband's cheating, and I broke my best friend's trust. I, 30 female, have become very close friends with 2 girls, Becca, who's 29, and Caroline, who's 30, over the past year. We hang out a lot and we call each other sisters. Their friendship is super important to me, but I worry I may have ruined it. Caroline works at a library with this guy David, who's in his 30s. They were flirting for 2 months before David confessed that he's actually married and can't be with Caroline in any way. This, of course, made Caroline super sad, so we, Becca and I, comforted her when she told us this deep and emotional secret. Apparently, David saw Caroline was sad at work and he apologized that he was the reason for her pain and said he just wanted to see her smile again and met her at a bar to clear the air about the situation. They flirted for hours. After the bar, he told her that he can't see her again, which made her sad, and we comforted her again. Fast forward to the next work day. David noticed Caroline was sad again, so he lamented that she's such a great girl and he's such a trash guy and she deserves so much better, and offered to take her somewhere to talk about their situation. They've been repeating this cycle for a while now. She's sad, he's guilty he made her sad, and he likes her attention, so he flirts with her and then takes her out. They flirt all night. Then he tells her they can't do this again and she's heartbroken again. Rinse, lather, repeat. I and Becca will race over to Caroline's townhouse and comfort her about every 1 to 2 weeks after he's told her he can't meet up with her again and she's desperate again. She tells us everything they did, and I said I understand that I'm privileged for her to trust us with that information because it's personal, emotional, and a secret. Now, I've been cheated on and it broke my heart. I still struggle with insecurities and pain that my past partner's infidelity caused me. Caroline knows this. Unfortunately, I know that makes this personal for me and I'm very biased. But every week when Caroline is crying, I can't stop thinking about David's poor wife. Caroline was able to find David's Facebook and showed us. This last time, Caroline admitted her and David's date got physical, and after comforting Caroline, I couldn't sleep. I knew Caroline and David were having an emotional affair, which is terrible, but having things get physical was too much for me. I made a dummy Facebook account, found David's Facebook, then found his wife's Facebook, and I sent her a message. It was very short, and I made it sound like I just witnessed David and some girl at a bar. I did this last night. Caroline messaged me that David has blocked her out of respect for his wife, and she's hurt. I'm going over tonight to tell her what I did. I'm concerned I may lose a really important friendship. I recognize I broke Caroline's trust, and she would be well within her rights to stop being my friend. I also understand Becca may feel the same and also cut ties with me for what I've done. I love Caroline and Becca like a sister, but I couldn't sit and not say anything anymore. Is there anything I can do or say to help salvage these friendships? Update. I know most people advised me against telling my friend what I did, but that felt hypocritical and cowardly of me. No shame on anyone else. It just didn't sit right with me. I couldn't tell her truth, then hide mine, you know? Before I get into it, I would like to address the comments recommending that she and I talk about how wrong this all was. Unfortunately, me and Caroline had many conversations about this situation and how wrong it was and how innocent people were being deceived. Unfortunately, her recurring response was that she knows it's wrong, but she can't even think about the wife or how bad it is when he's around. She had it bad. We also talked about David leaving his wife, but Caroline let me know that that was not on the table with David, and she did not want a serious relationship with him anyway because she knew she would not be able to trust him. We had also briefly talked about therapy, which she seemed to consider. She also had tried to get over David with another guy who was cute, kind, and respectful, but she said he was uninteresting and talked at length about how she imagined David when she was with this new guy. In any case, the day after I messaged the wife, I went over to Caroline's house as soon as she said she was home from the library. I brought her favorite cookies and said I needed to talk with her. I gave a very brief, think 1 minute, preamble about how she knows how much my cheating ex hurt me and how I'm still struggling with the damage that caused and why cheating is such a big deal to me. Then I told her what I did. She was quiet at first. She asked me if it was my place to say that, which I agreed it was not. She said she was very hurt and betrayed by my actions, which I said I understood and was more than fair. Then she lamented about poor David and how he must be struggling. This woman just learned that the wife was warned her husband is cheating and she was lied to, and Caroline's first thought was, poor cheating husband? Caroline hated the fact that he had blocked her because she just wanted to be there for him and to support him in his difficult time. I asked her what she would like from me, and she asked me to leave, which I quickly obliged. Later, Becca and Caroline both sent me messages late into the night and early into the morning about how I betrayed Caroline's trust. Fair. I was a terrible friend to Caroline. Fair. And to Becca for ruining our friend group. Fair. They also let me know I'm personally responsible if David's marriage fails and for the end of Caroline and David's relationship. I was also informed, according to Becca and Caroline, friendship means setting aside your personal values and morals for someone you care about, and I was told that if they did things I did not agree with on a deep level, that friendship meant ignoring my values and supporting them anyway. And that, I just cannot do. I feel absolutely terrible for hurting Caroline and by extension Becca, but I couldn't do this anymore. I don't have the space here to write how these women are not Disney villain characters. They, for a large part, are really great women. I have seen them be kind and generous. I know they have a history of working hard and enduring in the face of hardship. And I keep remembering happy memories of our Gilmore Girls marathons or our sledding trip. I don't know if I've ever had people I could laugh so hard with. But sitting here, I can't say I regret what I did or that I want those friendships back. Realizing how little hurting other people mattered to them when compared to friendship made me feel so uncomfortable. I honestly wish them happiness and healing, and I hope we all get what we need to grow and thrive, but I'm okay if we do that separately. Yeah, OP is better off without them. I'm actually surprised they went through it for so long. I would have been on top of my friends daily, reminding them how wrong it is what they're doing. I would have been the one cutting them off. Am I the jerk if I refuse to take in my brother, even if it wouldn't be forever? My father was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He will begin chemotherapy soon and will need a lot of assistance. I've offered to drive him to appointments and go shopping for him and his wife, which they gladly accepted. This morning, after I dropped off their groceries, they took me aside and asked if I could take in my half-brother, who's 14, until the end of the summer holidays, which would be until the 6th of August, so a whole month at least. I told them I would think about it and see if it would be possible. In truth, I don't want to take him in. I would be fine with him coming over for a day every few weeks, but I don't feel comfortable having a teenager living with me 24/7. Because of his age, I also don't feel a real connection with him as I do with my other half-brother, who's 26, or sister, who's 19. My brother is unable to take him because he not only lives in a different state, but is also living on base and sharing with other members of the Army. He will be finished soon, but it's still going to be about 3 months. My sister is not an option either, since she is now on her second semester at university and living with 3 roommates. Her exam phase is also starting in the next weeks, so she'll need some time alone to study and focus. I guess I'm the logical solution since I'm living nearest to them and have my own flat, but I also work full-time. A lot of the time I work night shifts and sleep during the day, so he would be left to his own probably more than if he just stayed home. I don't know how to tell my father that I don't want him to live with me though. I'm already helping as much as I can, so I don't really see why I should be the one to uproot my life now too. One reason I might feel that way could also be spite. Growing up, my stepmom made it clear to me that I wasn't part of their family and would never be a son to her. I hate to say it, but maybe I still hold it against her in some way, even if we're now friendly with each other. So Reddit, am I the jerk if I told them they'd have to find a different solution for my brother? For the sake of being completely honest, I'd like to add that I could talk to my boss about working days instead of nights, but I don't like working days since I'm more of a night person. If I were to take my brother in, my stepmom would also take over shopping and appointments, so I wouldn't have to do that anymore. It's just that I'd rather go shopping once a week than share my place with another person. My brother does spend time with my father every day, but they want to keep him from seeing the bad moments. I don't live far away from them, only about 20 minutes. They would want my brother to be able to come over when my father is feeling well enough, but they don't want him to be there when he's feeling bad. Edit, because I didn't proofread before posting. I'm 24, male. My father also had to quit his job because of the diagnosis. His wife still works though, and money's not an issue. His health insurance covers almost everything anyway. My siblings actually are all the kids of my father and his wife. Only I have a different mom. Not the jerk, and try not to feel guilty. He's not your responsibility, he's your stepmom's. So I would go tell her, no thanks, and tell your pops in a nicer way that you want to help, but you have your own life to focus on, but you will do other things to help out the best you can. But taking care of a teenager is not your responsibility, it's your parents'. Focus on you and put yourself first. Otherwise, others will keep walking all over you and see that they can. Karen demands I just do my job, ends up getting arrested. So I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my 4th day of work there and my 2nd day working at a cash on my own without a supervisor sitting next to me, teaching me the ropes. Yes, I only had 2 days of training. I'm sure most of you will figure out which country I live in from the following explanation. It will become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of horrible. Fridays, the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in this country. People go crazy on Fridays trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always told people after this day. The reason Thursdays are horrible is because we get all the customers who don't want to come on Friday. Now this was early evening on a Thursday at a time when the store is absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open and everyone had at least 6 to 7 people in line. Basically, if you're stuck with a slow cashier, there's nowhere else to go unless you have 10 items or less. Everything is going well until I get a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable items. And these are the large carts you will find around big stores in the US like Walmart. I found out later he buys this for a community center in his neighborhood and he fills up their pantry twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have heard that night. "This will be a delivery." Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded, especially on a day like today. When we get a delivery, the cashier would call a helper from the store to help bag the groceries. Usually people do their own bagging. The bags would then be placed in plastic containers, and containers would then be placed on top of each other and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery is usually between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which then I have to input all of them into the computer, along with correct delivery address and phone number, and print out with the receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants a delivery. I say, sure, no problem. Then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery and it will take just a bit longer than usual, and I apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another cash if they're in a hurry. This is when the whole line groans simultaneously. I don't blame them. There was nowhere else to go. I could see every one of them craning their necks to check out other lines, and they all decided to stay. So I started scanning as fast as I could. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my 4th day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnot. I can't even scan another item because they're all falling back onto my scale. At this point, I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes, just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. This is where the Karen comes into play. She's maybe early 40s, long brown hair, and looks nothing like a Karen, except for the way she was standing, with one hand on a hip that extended so far to the side, I wasn't sure how she's still standing. She's in my line, about 5 to 6 people in front of her still. This is the conversation that follows. Karen: "Hello? What are you doing?" Me: not answering, because I didn't think she was talking to me. I keep scanning. Karen: "Excuse me? What kind of a cashier are you? Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job," she screams at the top of her lungs. Me: "I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm just trying to—" Karen: "That's not your job. You are a cashier. Do your job. Do your job." I realize now, after reading so many Reddit stories, that this would have been a perfect chance for some malicious compliance. I'm sure some of you hope that I did just what Karen wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then, or that it was only my 4th day on the job. That's not what happened, although I dream sometimes that I did just that. Sit back and sip my coffee until some space cleared for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier. Next time. Me: "I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or you're in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you." I may sound like I'm the jerk with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously, that didn't help. Karen, not listening anyway and having none of it. "Just do your job. You are a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you stupid? You should be fired." I stop listening at this point and don't answer, as I'm still helping to bag and scan as fast as possible, knowing it's not going to help anyway. However, I see one of my managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to Karen. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. Joe: "What seems to be the problem?" Karen, still yelling: "Your cashier is awful. She is lazy and she's not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She's not doing her job." She repeated that a few times like a broken record. Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to Karen and says, "Can't you see she's trying to help? She's trying to make things go much faster." Now Karen starts screaming words. I'm assuming because I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining, or trying to, how me bagging items is actually helping, and this makes Karen even more irate, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, screaming like a banshee. Suddenly, I notice an older woman, nice old lady. She must have been around 80 years old, trying to get Karen's attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by her shoulder. Nice old lady. "Hey, Karen. Karen, excuse me. Karen." Karen: "What?" Nice old lady: "Your daughter is crying." This is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once, like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit, and we all look down and see this girl, who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mom, bawling her eyes out, snot going out everywhere, hyperventilating. She was terrified, and I can't blame her. Seeing her mother going off like that must have been terrifying, and she has no idea what's happening. She's in a huge store where she knows no one, and she's practically invisible. The silence lasted an entire 2 seconds, because that's when Karen started yelling at Joe. "Look what you did. You and your stupid, lazy cashier made my daughter cry," and a bunch of other crazy sounds that were perhaps supposed to be words. Things happen in slow motion for the next few seconds. She starts to swing towards Joe. Joe's not a big guy, but he's bigger than Karen, that's for sure, and he's not easily intimidated. Not his first Karen. She would have decked him right in the face if the nice old lady hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick up my jaw off the floor. At that point, other customers get involved, trying to peel off the nice old lady from Karen and stop Karen from trying to hurt Joe, and from Joe trying to hurt Karen, because he was fuming by then. At this point, I saw mall security storm the castle. Our store was inside a mall, and the sea of people just surrounded Karen, and I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. Kind of like football players when there's a fumble and they all jump on the ball. By the sound of yelling getting further and further away, I figured Karen was being led either to the back office or to the mall security office, mall jail. This entire time this is happening, I'm still bagging and scanning items, and I'm about halfway through this customer's purchase. I finish up with him with no more problems. He was very nice and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said I was the fastest and nicest cashier he had ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. I actually got compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently, many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at customers and just be plain nasty. I worked in customer service for many years prior, and I've never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in the back room, and I started to tell him of what just happened when he cut me off. "She was yelling at you?" I heard that. Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what was happening. He told me that police were called, and Karen was escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything, and we spent the next 30 minutes joking. I don't know what happened with the kid. I'm assuming they called another family member to pick her up. I also don't know what happened with Karen after that, since I ended up working there for another year and I never saw her again. Hopefully, she learned to do her grocery shopping on Tuesday or Wednesday, or was possibly in prison or house arrest. This was the first Karen I had the displeasure of meeting while working at that store, but definitely not the last. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.